Namco game number 8? What happened to game number 7? Well, I don't have any definitive answer on this, but game 7 is Namco's largest game to date. My guess is that the scope of the project just led to a month's delay, while the smaller, simpler Warpman could be brought forward into a July release. Warpman is a sequel to the arcade game Warp. Some people call it an enhanced remake, but my feeling is that there's enough new features in Warpman that it's a sequel. Warpman is an attempt to merge two genres of gameplay. There's an arena shooter where you run around the screen trying to knock out the aliens, and there's a Bomberman-like maze where you plant explosives to take out the aliens. As the name implies, you can warp between these. You have to collect an item to do this. On the shooting stage, doing this makes the center black hole flash, and then you can go inside. If the black hole isn't flashing, you can still walk on top of it though. On the bombing stage, a portal appears, and you do have to bomb it to make it open. Why would you want to go through the portal? Well, changing stages powers you up until the end of the stage. If you go from the shooting stage to the bombing stage, then your bombs explode in a radius rather than just across. And if you go from the bombing stage to the shooting stage, then your ray gun becomes a missile launcher. On every level, your goal is to eliminate a certain number of aliens. Once that number is defeated, you still have to clear out the field in order to progress. There's 48 stages in all before things start to repeat. The alien monsters are called Bemu, and I think it's supposed to be a take on the sci-fi abbreviation BEM for bug-eyed monster. There are 3 basic types of Bemu. Pero are the tongued ones, and they're the most basic type of enemy that appears. Dope are the round ones, and they occasionally lay eggs that hatch into more dope. Finally, there's the Goramo. When they're closed up, they can't be injured. The Bemu rotate through colors often, and if you shoot 3 of the same type and color of them in a row, then a special Bemu appears at the corner of the screen and walks along one edge before vanishing again. These are worth more points the further away you shoot them from. Most importantly, sometimes these appear with letters. The letters spell extra, and if you collect all 5 letters, you get an extra life. Here's the thing though. The letter that they appear with is chosen randomly, and they don't always appear with one. I did a basic statistical analysis and found that on average, 9 monsters with letters have to appear before you collect enough letters for extra. Of course, that's just average. The mode was 7, but I was seeing counts as high as 30. If you're actively trying to get the extra Bemu to appear, then in my experience you get 2 letters per stage. So assuming you collect all of them, you have to get through 5 stages before you're statistically likely to have earned an extra life. Of course, if you're just trying to survive, you could go a lot longer without seeing letters. The shooting gameplay is pretty straightforward, but the bombing gameplay does have one special feature. The bombs last longer the longer you hold down the fire button. So press and hold the fire button for a long time, you get a longer bomb fuse. The longer the fuse, the greater the chance that the bomb will stick to a Bemu that walks over it. So there's an advantage to placing long fuses in the paths of the aliens. But if you're running through a cluster, then you might want to plant a whole line of bombs. Warpman has a 2-player simultaneous mode, and much like Mario Bros., the players can interfere with each other. In the shooting stage, shooting the other player stuns them for a second. Warpman is a game that seems to have left almost no impression in Japan. It's definitely a, oh yeah, that exists kind of game. Back in the 80s, there was a board game released for it as part of a line of mini games that cost 200 yen each. It's just a spin and move game, so it doesn't really look like a lot of fun. As for my impressions of Warpman, well, I like the fact that it's a simple game so I can keep the video short. But in terms of gameplay, it still feels pretty primitive. Despite the power-up that you get from warping, I find it easier to just stay on the shooting stage. The aliens' movements are too erratic on the bombing stage for me to really catch them easily. Whereas on the shooting stage, they move regularly, and I have a much easier time. It winds up feeling like two half-thought-out games jammed together into one. Warpman is the weakest game we've seen from Namco so far, and given the high quality of their output, it's a shame.